Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome. I'm the Urban Monk, and thank you for that amazing intro by Dave, which is why I always start the show with a smile on my face. It's been quite some time, and quite a few things have been happening in Monk Towers. Fill you in on all that kind of stuff later on. The most important thing is my book is now with the printers, and it will be titled The Greatest Yorkshire Puddings in the World and the Death of a Narcissist. Now, if you don't know what Yorkshire puddings are, Google it. The nicest thing in the world to eat and the nicest thing in the world that I ever make, which is part of really my story of narcissism. And that's something that I want to cover tonight. We've mentioned it before, but it really is something that's cropped up recently. A couple of clients have mentioned it. A couple of people that I'm kind of closely involved with, family and friends, are going through that sort of problem. And it really is a bit of an issue. Now, having been a narcissist, and I'm the first to admit it, I wasn't aware that I was. And that's going to be one of the key things that really we explore and that we talk about. I was the perfect boyfriend, the perfect husband, the perfect father. Everything I did was because I loved the people that I was doing them for. Well, it turns out that after my road trip and the creation of the Urban Monk, living in the now and being present, I realized that I was doing all of those things to satisfy a need for me to be wanted and to be loved. And it was all about me feeling better about myself. I really didn't consider other people and their feelings in the way I was. I sort of tricked myself into believing that I was doing it for them. Now, for people watching or listening, viewing on catch up, it's very important that we realize that the narcissist in your life, and if you are one, then it's very important that you take heed of this. And if you're with one, then again, it's something that, really you need to pay attention to. A narcissist can't help it. It's not something that they have control over. It's the egoic mind, something that we talk about all the time. The point of living in the now is to rid yourself of those thoughts, the egoic mind, the control that the mind gives us for avoiding really fear or anxiety based on something that's happened in the past. So all narcissists, some will argue most, some will argue some, but it's all, really. All narcissists are living a life controlled by the egoic brain, the egoic mind, based on their childhood, circumstances, life happening, the environment that they were born into. And so it's going to sound hard if you're living with one, but they really can't help it. I couldn't help it because I wasn't aware that it was not the real me. If you're with a narcissist and that person wasn't narcissistic when you first met, fell in love, or became part of your family, if you like, then you've got to realize that there is a real person inside there, and the actions of the narcissist are based on their need to feel better about themselves. So if you look at someone that you did love or do love, and they are showing all the red flags, all the signs of narcissism, control, all that kind of stuff, coercive behavior, making you feel bad, every argument will be turned around to being your fault. You have to take time to be present yourself. It's not for you to try and change them. It's for them to try and change, or to be aware of what they're doing and change themselves. That's where I was, 2 marriages in, a really serious long-term relationship. And I believed that I was doing everything, paying for first-class travel, cooking dinners, making the best Yorkshire puddings in the world, hence the title of the book, for that person to appreciate, to enjoy being with me and that life that I was able to give them. And one of my ex-partners actually confronted me and said, I'd paid for a really expensive trip to London. We'd gone to see a show in the West End. We ate at the best restaurants, and we were just sat drinking. And she said, thank you, but you've really just done it to make yourself feel better about yourself. Well, those words kind of echoed in my head after I'd lost my shit. I don't know if I can say that, and Dave will probably tell me after the show that I can't say it, but I've said it anyway. I lost my shit. I wasn't able to be controlled, and I wasn't having somebody tell me that I was doing something for me. I was spending time planning, looking on websites, getting money, saving to make them have that enjoyable experience. But the reality was, and is, that I was actually doing it for a need to feel better about myself. I wanted to feel loved and appreciated. I wanted that partner or partners previous to walk in and say, the kitchen smells delicious, the food tastes delicious, everything's amazing, you've put yourself out to go and cook and clean and make sure that I have the best time. But that never happened. There was always something wrong. There was a wet dishcloth on the side that was pointed out to me. And I, again, lost my shit, you know? So I was looking for adulation and appreciation. And that's what the narcissist is really looking for. It can be quite severe. I understand that. And I'm not demeaning anybody that's going through a relationship with that kind of personality, but they can't help it. They are controlled completely and totally by a need for control based on the egoic mind telling them that they need to be in control. They're listening to that voice that tells them, I'm not having this. Like we do in an argument. Somebody seems to always want to have to be right. And if there's a winner in an argument, then there's always got to be a loser. And that generally, we want that to be the other person or persons. We won't take responsibility for accepting our behavior, acknowledging where we're coming from, acknowledging where that anger came from. So it was something that I had to rein in and realize. And by being present, you become able to understand that that person can't help what they're doing. I'm going to get a bit serious now. I was born into a dysfunctional family. My father was very violent and aggressive, and we didn't speak for years prior to his death. Now I've seen people say, I wish I'd said this before he died. I wish I'd said that before she died. And I thought, that's bullshit. Sorry, Dave. It's bullshit. You know, he treated me like that. I was abused. I was abused as a child. So I'm not going to say sorry. And that's where the majority of arguments and stress and anxiety come from. Nobody will accept and acknowledge sorrow, you know. And when I became the urban monk and started being present and living now, I do actually really wish now that I'd been able to speak to him before he died, just to see where he was coming from and ask him how he was feeling and what he was thinking. But that, you know, the time was gone. So I didn't get the chance to do that. And it was only because I was enlightened or present that I realized that he couldn't help the way he was behaving either. He was a product of his environment. He was a product of his parents. That, you know, he grew up during the war and all that kind of trauma. Like we've had COVID, you know, we all get anxious, we all have anxiety, we all have fear and frustration based on what's happened in the past few years. And the same with my dad. So I kind of now regret not being able to square things with him. We've been in touch psychically, you know, I've had messages from him and I've been dealing with mediums, and I had quite an interesting conversation with Susanna Medium, one of the other presenters and a very, very good friend of mine on this show. We had a conversation and he was there, and we had a kind of discussion to put my mind at rest. But it's the same thing with narcissists, you know. It's time for you to be present if you're the narcissist, or if you're the victim of a narcissist. Be present, be in the moment, look at what triggers your anger or anxiety, what makes that person react the way they do. Have they got something missing from their life? Do they need to speak to somebody about the childhood? Now, you don't have to stay with a narcissist. It's a personal choice. But, you know, at the end of the day, the options are stay and resolve the issue and be present and understand that it's not their fault, or leave. You know, that sounds quite simply put. And I was talking to a friend the other day about how she brings up her teenage child who's kind of controlling the house and controlling everything, but she's allowing and enabling him to do that because of her need to feel better or be a good mum, be acknowledged by other people in his circle of friends at school. She wants to feel like she's a good parent. She's not really interested in the child and his life and his development, and she kind of clings to him, holding him in, not allowing him to grow up, not allowing him to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. So we had that conversation, and she said to me, it's really easy to say, yes, you're right, but it's not so easy to do. And I get where she's coming from, but my answer to that and to you and everybody watching and listening is, yes, it is. It really is easy. It's just simply a decision, We smoke, we decide to stop smoking. It's difficult, but the decision's made and we achieve that because we want to stop. It's something that's as simple as making that decision. I wasn't in that situation until my road trip in 2018, till I became the urban monk, until I lived in the present and realized that now is all we really ever have. So I'm going to cut it short tonight. I'm going to end. It's been quite deep. I appreciate you giving up your time to watch, listen, and understand. And coming up soon, in the next couple of weeks, I'll be opening up to questions. So if you want to start emailing urbanmonkuk@gmail.com, I'll cover those questions, or get in touch with Dynamic Dave of the studio, and he'll pass those messages on, or we'll go live for questions and answers in the not too distant future. And I want to draw a close to that. I hope you're all getting ready for Christmas. I can see that there's snowflakes and Christmas trees floating around the screen. It looks that way, so it's very festive. I'll be with you again this time next week. So have a great week. Stay safe, and I look forward to connecting with you all again on a lighter note next time. Take care.